All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming back. I know we had yesterday off, so thank you for joining me back here on Monday. I double checked. I did not see any questions or anything from our previous work over the last week, so I was thinking today in the first hour, we've been cranking around items and doing all sorts of other stuff, but we've not actually made the merchant and the store. So I thought we'd start off the stream today with that. Let's get the merchant and the store created and hopefully get them in game. Depending on how quickly that goes, maybe we'll do dialogue. If we don't, then we'll do the merchant's dialogue tomorrow. But let's make the merchant and the store today and get them actually in the game. And then in the second half, I think we only have a handful of items left. Depending on how much time we have, we'll do items in the second half. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on the creature file, and we'll talk about creature files a little bit, and we'll talk about store files a little bit. For the folks who are here in the chat, if you have any good name ideas for the merchant, him or herself, by all means share them in the chat. But otherwise, let's start by taking a look at creature files. We'll talk a little bit about creature files and how they work. So every creature that's in the game, oddly enough, uses a creature file. They're pretty straightforward. Let's just pull up Ares, or one of Ares. So the first part of every creature file is identical out to, and they're pretty large, out to about here. Yeah, out to about, actually no, out to about here is the same. So anything that's in here is all going to be placed in the same order. You've got the name, you've got the XP. The XP value is joinable NPCs don't have it, but like if you were to kill this creature, that's how much XP you get. There are all sorts of flags that you could use to indicate things. And then hit points, animation. Aerie, remember, starts as an ogre before you free her with the sword. Their colors, their portraits. Aerie does not have a portrait design because, again, she starts as an ogre. When she gets transformed into an elf, she'll actually get one. And then you've got just basic stats. You've got armor class, to hit, attacks per round, saves, resistances, thieving skills, luck. These are left over from original Baldur's Gate and original Icewind Dale. They still work. So for joinable NPCs, you shouldn't use these, but for monsters, you could still use these if you want to give a creature proficiencies, right? This is a nice, easy way. These are, unlike the BG2 proficiencies, these are tied to item types. So large sword covers like anything of the item type of two-handed swords, and I think it's also like bastard and large swords, or bastard, long swords, scimitars, and katanas. So these are left over. If you're making a joinable NPC, you need to do it in the modern way with opcode 233. There's some of this stuff like doesn't really matter for joinable. For non-player one. And then you have a whole bunch of sound set. There's like 100 fields of sound set. And then you've got the levels. Since she's multi-class, she's got both of these. Both of these are non-zero. Basic things like you've got sex and gender is here somewhere too. Basic stats, morale break. Racial enemies if it's a ranger. You've got the kit. 4,000 just means they're a generic, unkitted, whatever they are. Then you've got 5 slots of scripts. And these basically execute in the order that they're listed here, right? The override script is the most important. This one gets executed first. If nothing on the override script is true, then I'll check this one. These 2 are empty, but if they had scripts, they would be checked. And then finally it goes to the last script. One other thing, this isn't relevant to us, but for joinable NPCs, when they join the party, only the override script is preserved. Everything else gets blanked when they join the party. Only their override script is important. And then we've got some basic things like allegiance. Neutral means that she's blue circled. She's a humanoid. She's an elf. She's a cleric mage. Specifics, we touched on this a little bit when we did the AI scripting for Zalanora. Specifics is used for scripting when you want to group certain creatures together so that they act together or they can react to each other with the group command and scripting. Gender. So you notice there's a gender and there's also a sex. Gender is used for other things in the game. For example, illusionary. If you summon illusions, you can have spell effects target them differently. You notice there's also summoned and summoned demon. Like, for example, death spell will kill anything with a gender of summoned. The other practical effect it has is the casting voice that a creature uses. If I remember right, it uses the female chanting casting voice. If it's set to female, it uses male, I think, for everything else. So, and then we've got alignment. We've got their script name, which is important. And then these basically, all these offsets, generally you don't have to worry about, but these tell the game where should I look for known spells? How many spells does she know? The information for her memorized spells start at 730, and there's 17 of them. So just kind of basic effects. And then her dialogue file. And then since Ares is a spellcaster, you can see these are all of her known spells. And then you've got, this is her priest. It's +1 from here. So her level 1 priest spells, this is what she has memorized. What she has memorized at level 2, etc., etc. And then it repeats for mage spells, and because she's a cleric mage, she's got spells here too. And then finally, there's one last one for innates. Ari doesn't know any innates, so there's nothing listed here. She's got some effects, and this is where we saw the original Baldur's Gate block of where you can do proficiencies. For joinable NPCs, it's all done through opcode 233. So she's got 4 effects here. These are all proficiencies. So you can see she gets 1 point in club, 1 point in sling, 1 point in staff, and I missed this one, 1 point in mace. And then her equipment. She's got 5 items, and then you can see item 0 is equipped in her armor. Item 1 is her second weapon. Then she's got bullets in her quiver slot. She's got a staff in her main weapon slot, and then she's got studded leather armor that is in her inventory. So that's your basic creature file. Oh, and then so she's got multiple weapons. So how does the game know which one is equipped? Down here at the bottom, weapon slot selected is 0. So she's got this set up as her equipped weapon. And then in case a weapon has multiple abilities, you can also tell it which abilities to use. So that's a creature in a nutshell. The main things that we want to pay attention to here are the script name. So anytime you want to target something via script, you can use the script name. And then the dialogue file, which is what we're also going to be using for the merchant. So that's kind of your basic overview of creature files. So the effects, one more little thing about effects. These are the same exact effects that we have been using in our spells and our items. I'm sorry, I'm pointing to inventory as I talk about. These are the same set of effects that we have been using in our spells and our items. It's the same set of opcodes that you can use. You can apply them and attach them to creatures, just like you can to an item or a spell. And then same thing with the inventory. Just like when we were talking about adding in the ring to Zalanora's, you can set charges, and there are various flags. Is this identified? Has it stolen? Basically means you can only sell it to a fence. Not stealable. If you flag this, it basically just means you can't pickpocket. And then undroppable basically means that when this creature dies, this item will not drop. So if you want to give your monsters or whatever a little bit of a bonus, and you give them some items that don't drop, This is how you do it. You can also use this for, if a monster, you give a monster, say, a weapon that are claws that obviously shouldn't drop when they die. You just flag them as undroppable. That way they attack with something, but it shouldn't be made available to the player. Duration is not really relevant. You can basically, if this is non-zero, basically the item will disappear after this expires in seconds. So if we were to set this to 100, after 100 seconds, this cloak would disappear. This really is only relevant for like magically created weapons, and the engine will set that for you. So for the most part, you don't need to worry about duration. So that's kind of your overview of the creature file. In general, there's a lot here to kind of, if you were to try to create a creature file from scratch, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt. So in general, if you're creating somebody who's going to be like a player class, like a fighter or a mage or a sorcerer or whatever, 99 times out of 100, it's going to be simpler to just create the character like as a PC or as a, or even better as like player 2 is like the second player, so they don't get all the ball spot abilities, is to just create that through the normal character generator and then export it to a character file. And then with NI, you can take that character file and you can, you can export it as a creature file. And that is so much easier. The only thing you need to be careful of in that situation is that, and for all I know, NI now removes these, but I'm not sure, is that it will set, because it's a player created character, this flag will be set, the export allowed. And it's important to remove these because otherwise, like when they join the party, it'll treat them as a multiplayer character and not like as a full-fledged NPC. Like it'll blank their override script and their dialogue and replace it with generic. So that's the way to do, if you need a mage or if you need a barbarian or something for your party, go through the character creator, export it as a character, transform it back to a creature. Just make sure that this export allowed flag is removed, because then it will be treated as a creature as just like everybody else. So we're going to start off, we're going to create a generic merchant for this mod. So let's see what we got in terms of options for just generic merchant. We're going to give them a name, but we'll base them off just a nice generic merchant. So I was thinking we're going to place them at trade meet. So I'm going to grab the TR, means this is a trade meet merchant. So we're going to open up him and see what we've got here. So we've got a merchant. He's got some nice generic scripts. I can talk about these in a moment. And then, yeah, he just uses the nobleman animation. He's classed as an innocent. Innocent is a special class. If you kill an innocent, that's where you get the rep penalty. So if they are, if they're a fighter or a mage or whatever, if they're set to a non-innocent class, then you can fight them just like normal. But if they're set to innocent, this is where you get your rep penalty for killing somebody. And since this is going to be a normal merchant, you should get a rep penalty. So we're going to leave this as class innocent. So good morning, Skelly. Now the scripts, we talked about this a little bit with Zalanora. There are a ton of just generic. There are a ton of generic scripts that are just available in the game. Shout is we talked a little bit about shouts before. This is just a good generic shout script. So we'll leave that for him. Run enemy is, I'm pretty sure if I see an enemy, if I detect the PC and I see an enemy. Oh, it's just doing the male because it does a male sound when they run. And they do a female sound when they run. Okay. So basically, if I'm a humanoid, I'm not enemy, and I see an enemy, I'm going to play a I'm scared noise and then run away from. And then same for female. Yeah, so this is and this is appropriate response for, merchant. If I see somebody who's red circled, I should run away. Steel So if the steel's failed, I'm going to start the stolen dialogue. And the stolen dialogue is basically, he basically says thief. He takes 2 reputation and turns hostile. Yeah, so basically all of these are just one of 3 lines. He basically calls you a thief, takes 2 rep, and then turns hostile. So that's also appropriate for a merchant. And then the WT series are also something that is kind of nice generic script. So let's see. If I'm attacked by anybody and I was neutral, go hostile. If I see an enemy, run away from them. And if I'm attacked by anybody, run away from them. So yeah, these are good, solid. And the nice thing is once they're enemy, we can come back to the shout script. And if I'm pretty sure we've got, yeah, if I'm hit by anybody, I'm also going to shout 99. And if I heard 99, then I'm going to go hostile. Right. So these are a good set of nice generic scripts. These work for our merchant. I don't really see anything else need to change. We will change their script name and their dialogue. So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and duplicate this. We're going to call this G3C merch creature. Okay, and then we're going to change their script name to match. Merch. And the same with the dialogue. Oops. G3C merch. So now, just like the NPCs, we're going to use say to assign this guy a name when we copy him over. So first, let's move him into the override folder, or into the mod. Let's grab him here. Drop in the Cree file. Let's lowercase him. Okay, and then we'll come back to our TP2. Wrong window. All right, let's just add a Cree files. All right, now it is slightly different for creatures. And what we're going to name our merchant? Let's take a, I'm going to do a quick. Let's see. There we go. All right. We're going to call them Ryson. Yep. And we're going to, it's going to be Cree, and it's going to be G3C merch. Cree to the override. Now, creatures have 2 name fields. One is just their name. The other one is the tooltip. In general, in Baldur's Gate 2, these are almost always identical. It's very rare that these don't match. Icewind Dale was, at least the original was, Icewind Dale EE actually took these away. But in the original Icewind Dale, you would have like the name. So you'd meet like Arendelle in Kuldahar. But his tooltip would be like Old Man. And so you saw this a lot in, you know, you go into a bar, you'd go into a bartender, instead of it saying Grisella, it would say like the barkeep. And then when you talk to her, that's when you would actually get her name. In Baldur's Gate 2, these are almost always identical. So we're going to use the same string for both 8 and C to set the name and the tooltip identically. So we're going to, let's try this. We're going to say it 08. This is just going to be the name, and the tooltip. And like I said, these are going to be identical. This is going to be at 1048. We'll name them Racing. Like I said, unless anybody else has an alternative that they want to name them. And just like that, we've got our creature file in the game. So the next thing we want to do is, oh, Skelly just gave it right. Gilbert Lincoln the Third. Okay. Can I just copy this? Yes, there we go. All right. Farewell, Ryson. Hello, Gilbert Lincoln the Third. So now we've got the creature file created, but we need to get him into the game. So my original thought for the merchant was we'd put him one of two places. We'd either put him in Joaquin's Promenade or we'd put him in Trade Meet. And I'm leaning towards Trade Meet. And the reason why is because that will give us an opportunity to do a little bit of conditional dialogue. Because in Trade Meet, none of the merchants have anything to sell until you resolve the quest with the genie. So this will give us an opportunity to have dialogue like before the genies are cleared out and then after. So it'll give us, so we can do a little bit of conditional dialogue instead of just a very straightforward dialogue. So that's why I'm thinking more towards Trade Meet. So our first thing that we need to do is we need to figure out where in Trade Meet we want to place them. So Trade Meet is, if I remember correctly, I think it's Area 2000. Yes. All right. It's Area 2000. Near Infinity is, I've said this before, is very amazing. So Near Infinity will actually, you can just open up the area, and I'm going to scale this so that we can see the entire area. So this is all of Trade Meet. Now the nice thing is we can click on the actor layers, and this shows you where everybody is here, including they're even color coded to their circles. So you've got hostile panthers and you've got militia wizards. They aren't green circled, but they are allies, which is why they're coded green. So the nice thing with this is we can kind of look around and be like, all right, where can we put our merchant where it's not going to be on top of somebody else and is not going to interfere? Like there are quest events that happen here. There are quest events that happen here. You know, you don't want them right next to the entrance because, again, the animal's going to attack. So probably somewhere in this ring is where we want to put them. So let's zoom in a little bit and look specifically at that ring. So we've got, the nice thing is we've got these existing booths and we can use these as a setup for, you know, we can put our merchant in front of our booth and make it look like the booth is like their established place. So there's nobody here. So I think like right here would be a good spot for them. So the nice thing is if you look down here, you've got information X and Y. When I hover my mouse, you can see it's moving. So those are our coordinates. We're going to want 936 and 2670. So I'm going to note those down. 936 and what was it? 2670 are going to be where we want to spawn them. And the other thing too is, let me bring this back up. We want them to face not directly south, but a little bit off south. So not southwest, not south, but south-southwest. Because when you spawn, you give the creature an orientation, like which direction you want them to face. So we want south-southwest. Because then, you know, he's basically looking out from his booth. So to do this, we need a little bit of scripting. So the good news is every area has an area script. Well, okay. Every area can have an area script assigned. The majority of them do have an area script assigned. If you don't, you can actually assign one. By convention, it is usually just the name of the area. Where's our... There it is. So like if this area didn't have an area script, we could just copy the area and assign it AR2000 as a script. It's not quite as straightforward when you're talking about Baldur's Gate or Tutu or BGT, but for the most part, area scripts are named the same as the area. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a little chunk of script. I'm just going to copy this. We're going to call it AR2000 just to keep it organized for ourselves. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use this to create the creature. So we're going to check we're going to go G3C merch spawn. So if this variable is 0, which it is by default, then we're going to set it to 1 so that this block does not repeat. And then we are going to, let me pull up the IESDP. We're going to use the create creature command. So again, we're in scripting, so we're looking at actions. I want to create creature. I'm just going to copy and paste this. And we're going to create the creature G3C merch. In brackets, these are coordinates. And what did I say our coordinates were going to be? $936 and 2670. And then the third one is the orientation. And so orientation's 0 is south, and there are 16 as you go around. So it's 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 would be west, 5, 6, 7, 8 would be north, 12 would be east. So we wanted south, southwest, so we just want just one tick off of south. So we want a facing of 1. So that's our simple script to spawn. And now we come back to, let's come back to our scripting. And we are once again just going to extend bottom. This is an existing script, area 2000, the area script. And we're going to add that little script chunk that we just made, that area 2000.baf. And this will spawn the merchant. And I'm going to put a comment here. So remember, this is for Cespinar's item upgrade. So that should be enough to get the, oh, and you know what? Let's also copy this over. Make sure that we keep our comments correctly. So we've created the merchant. We've added the script bit that will spawn them in game. So let's run this really quick and see if it works, and see if we get a merchant turning up in game. So let me open my command window here. Set up G3 zip. Yes. Okay. Now I will point out, so area files, just in case somebody's curious. So area files do have creatures listed in them, right? I mean, these are all the creatures that exist already in the area file itself. So when you first visit TradeMeet, it loads all this up, it loads up all these creatures and places them in the file. Now, the reason why we're doing this via script is, one, it's so much easier. Trying to modify there are functions that can now do this for you, but adding a creature to an area is difficult, and we can spawn that creature with just one little block of scripting, and it's so much easier. The other one is that area files are stored in a save game, so that even though players aren't supposed to do this, players will. So if you have a player that has visited TradeMeet and then they install this mod, if the creature is in the area file, it won't show up because they've already visited TradeMeet and they have the old version of TradeMeet stored in their save game. Whereas a script, the game will always check the script fresh. So if you have a creature spawning via script, it will work. So that's why. And then that's also why when you look at this area, he's not here because he's going to be spawned in by script. So he won't show up here as, one of these little icons, but he will show up. So just a little side as to why we're doing this via script. So he should be here. So let's fire up a game. And even I know it's throwing a veil, but we're going to just cheat to the area. So let's go to, let's see, move to area AR 2000. Let's explore. And let's see, we had him, what, down here somewhere?
I shall follow your strength.
There he is.
Destiny awaits.
Now, he doesn't say anything because we've given him a dialogue file that doesn't exist. So he's got nothing to say and he won't do anything. I mean, if we attack him, he'll turn red and run away. But that's why he doesn't have anything to say. But he's here. He's in the game. He turned because I spoke to him. But he was also facing the right direction. So, good, good, good. So, Wandering Scholar wants to know, how do you insert creatures directly in the inner file? One of Wisp's functions does it for you. And so I want to say one of the FJ area ones. So I think it's... Oh, let's try that again. FJ. Area structure. Yeah, so you can use the FJ area structure to add a... You set it to actor. And then you can define all the information. So there's a macro to do it because otherwise it's... Because the thing is, right, when you insert a creature, because actors are first, you know, you need to up the number of actors, and then everything that follows that, you have to push it out, right? All of these offsets change because you've inserted bytes ahead of them. So that's why it's a bit of a pain in the butt. So that's why just do it via script. It'll make your life easier. It doesn't show up in near infinity when you look at the area, but it's not worth it. Going through and doing stuff like this is a big pain in the butt. If you really feel you must do, FJ area structure does amazing things to areas. Like if you need to add traps, you need to add regions, you need to add, you know, whatever. This is kind of your do all function for doing it. So you can do it with this. Like I said, you just use structure type actor, define all your actor stuff, and it will add the creature to the file for you. Okay. So we've created our merchant. He has scripting that's relevant for him. He has a dialogue file that is not created, or that does not exist yet. So let's pop back really quick, and we'll be able to see G3C. There he is. Oh, I got it. So he's Gibberling the Third. Okay. Scaly, I missed that the first time. All right. Well done. So he's got a dialogue file that doesn't exist. So let's go ahead and create a basic dialogue file for him. Let's go back to our what file? Oh, and actually, let's go ahead and make a commit here now that he spawns before we do the dialogue. Okay, and script, that's what else we added. And all right, make our commit. Merchant, creation, and spawn. Yep. Commit and push. There we go. All right, so now he's in the game. Nice and easy. So now we're going to write a basic dialogue for him. And for this time only, I'm going to do this as a separate file. And the reason why is we're also going to use this as a short tutorial on how to trayify things. Because like as we've been going along, like I've been using direct string references as I go. And I know not everybody's careful with that. And especially when you're writing dialogues, it's very annoying to have to like look back and forth between your tray file and your D. So we're going to write a D file longhand with the strings, and then we're going to use WeiDU to trayify it when we're all done. And the reason why we're going to do this is it's going to make a little more sense as we read the dialogue file. So let's create a new dialog file. We'll call this G3C merch.d. All right. So the first thing we need to do is we say begin G3C merch. This is how you tell WeiDU to create a dialog file. So the first thing we need to do is let's take a look at that existing, the trade meat merchant that we based him on. And we're going to look at his entry states. So you can see all of these check for Baldur, whether or not Baldur is alive or not. And then let's see. Okay, he's actually got quite a bit of yeah, so oddly enough, he's not triggered on the oh yeah, actually here it is. Okay, genies are gone. So if the genies have not left, he'll give you a whole bunch of excuses as to why he can't sell you anything. If the genies are gone, then he goes and starts a store. So this is what I was looking for. So we're going to want him to have different dialogue based on whether or not the genies are gone. This guy also has dialogues based on if Baldur is dead. I just happen to know that C1 is Baldur. If Baldur is dead, you've basically been named the hero of trade meat. So you notice he's got like a hero at my very own shop. And then even then, he still has genie dependent dialogue. Up. Yep. And then he starts a store. Notably, he doesn't give you a discount. He's super excited you're a hero, but he still doesn't give you a discount. So very, very good merchant. So we're going to want a couple of different entry points, just like this trade meat merchant, right? We're going to want to, so let's think about this for a moment. All right. So we're going to want, and I'm going to comment this so we can use this as a basis. We're going to want an initial meeting. You know, the first time you've ever met him, he's going to introduce himself. We'll want any subsequent meetings, you know, be like a welcome back type of thing. And then subsequent if you're not the hero, and subsequent if you are the hero. And in all of these, he's going to either the genies are gone, and he can sell, or genies are here, no store. And that's going to be true for pretty much all these scenarios. So you can see we've already kind of got a good basis for starting our dialogue. So we're going to want to track whether this is our first time meeting him or not. Then we'll want to use that same, in fact, let me go ahead and grab these variables from this trade meet dialogue. So our conditions are going to be, for the hero, it's going to be whether or not Baldur is dead. This is the hero check. And then the other check is whether or not the genies are gone. This is going to be our check for if I can sell. So these are kind of going to be our big triggers. Now this merchant, and this is something we can add if we want to. I just want to do a basic dialogue, so I'm not going to. But you notice he's got a charisma check in here. So if your charisma is 12 or lower, he basically tells you to go away. Now, when you're the hero, there's no longer a charisma check. You're the hero. He doesn't care. He's happy to talk to you either way. Now, if you are charismatic enough and you're not yet the hero, then he gives you a much nicer greeting. So I'm not actually going to do that. We're going to keep it with the 3 initial entry points. So these 3 are going to be our 3 entry points into the dialogue. And then basically if you ask what they have for sale, then we're going to go into a secondary check. So let's do a very basic dialogue. So we're going to go, if num times talked to is 0. This is a very common trigger that you'll see throughout the game. And like with all things, if you're ever not sure what a trigger or something does, we can always look in triggers and we can find num times talk to or number of times talk to if you want to use the expression one. And it returns true only if the player has spoken to the active creature the exact number of times specified. You've also got greater than or less than. But in this case, we only want 0 because we want this to be the very, very first time that we've spoken. So we're going to be nice and simple. If the number of times talked to is 0, then I believe it's, I can't remember if it's begin or say. Sorry, it's been a while since I've done longhand dialogue. Let me check out the ribald that we... If we're not going to do waits, then begin, the state name, then say. Okay. Yeah, then begin. And we're going to call this initial meeting. And we're going to say, greetings to you, young. And then here, we're going to use a token. We're going to use one of the racial tokens. So let's see what tokens we got available. We're going to use race. So if Jaheira goes up and talks to him, he's going to say, hello, young elf. If Mince goes up to him, he's going to say, hello, young human. So this is just, and we could also do this with class. You know, we could say, hello, young, where is it? Oh, I thought we had it here. Okay. So we're just going to use your race. So, you know, hello, young elf, or whatever. Elf. So just a nice, simple greeting. And then from there, now we've got player replies. So, and reply. You know, we can have the, I'm not interested. I have no time for this. Then go to, and we'll call this the declined store reply. And we're just keeping this very simple right now, right? So this is, and then what I want to see what's in your store. Let me see your goods. This, and we'll call this state, let's see, goods. Actually, instead of goods, let's say store. So very simple. He basically says greeting to you, and then we have one of 2 replies. So I have no time to this. Then we go to decline store. So now we need a state for that. No condition. Then the merchant's just going to do a nice simple farewell. And we are going to exit the dialogue. Nice and easy. All right, now if I want to see the store, actually, let me take that back. So we're going to need 2 replies here. And it's going to depend on whether or not the genies are gone. Yeah. So if the genies are gone, it's going to send them to can't see store because the genies are still here. Otherwise, we're going to go to open store. So if the genies are still there, then we're going to say, alas, traveler, I cannot. It's their Dow, right? How does our existing trade me merchant say it? He basically says, we haven't been able to get any supplies and trade meat's almost out of food. Okay. Caravans in town. I have nothing to sell. And actually, you know what? We're going to turn this, instead of decline store, we're going to change this into a generic farewell, because we're going to route a whole bunch of other routes here too. So basically, he says, I have nothing else to say. Or alas, traveler, I cannot. Now continue to caravans town. I have nothing to sell. And then, if that's the case, we are going. Actually, we're just going to have a straight up exit there. So he basically says, I've got nothing to sell. I've got nothing I can sell to you. Sorry, get out of here. Now, if the genies have been dealt with, then we're going to open the store. In which case, we're going to say, yes, please take a look at my wares. And in this case, we're going to do something before we exit. And that do is going to be, we're going to open the store. So this is the command for starting a store. So basically, we're going to start the store. This is the store name, which is going to be, in our case, the store is going to be named G3 Merch. And who you're going to open it with is last talked to by. So basically, he's going to open the store with whoever is talking to him. You could override this and say, I want to start the store with player 1, but generally, you always do it with the person who last talked to you. So that's our nice, simple initial dialogue. So for future visits, if number of time talked to is not 0, so this is going to be subsequent visits. And either one of two things is going to be true. Actually, you know what? Let me take that back. We don't even need to put this in here. Because this is the first weighted, if the number of times talked to is 0, and this is at the top of the dialogue, this is always going to fire when I have never talked to this person before. So they will always get this as the initial dialogue. So I don't even need to include that trigger here for subsequent visits, because I can't get to this dialogue unless this one has already been satisfied. So instead on this one, we're just going to put up a straight up Valdorn check. So first we'll do the if Valdorn is not dead. So if Valdorn is still out there sending animals against the town. And we're going to say this as generic meeting. And instead we're going to say, welcome back, adventurer. This dialogue is terrible. I'm aware of this. If anybody out there wants to write better dialogue for this, please. The other thing too that I've not demonstrated is if we wanted to, if we wanted the merchant to have multiple lines here, we can also do an equal and then put, it is good to see you again. So this would give him 2 lines if we wanted him to have 2 lines, in like separate text box. And this is good for if you're doing like a long, if you wanted to like give a quest and you want to have like multiple lines and you want to break up the text into multiple boxes. The equal sign, and you can do that. You can chain together as many as you want here. In this case, we're just going to do a simple welcome back, adventurer. And let me think here. Yeah, we'll just do a welcome back, adventurer. So, and this is the case for, again, you're not the hero of trade meat. And then we're gonna reuse. Actually, let's just reuse the replies, because all these are still valid. Either I have no time for this, or let me see your goods. And then the same thing will apply. Either they can't see the store because the genies are still there, or we can open the store because the genies are gone. And then we need our third case, which is going to be, we are now the hero of trade meet. And same thing, right? We're going to have the same 3 replies. The reason why it's in black is because we're doing this longhand, and then I'm going to show people how they can trayify. Because especially when you're writing dialogue, having to go back and forth between a tray file and this is a bit of a pain in the butt. So we're going to do this longhand, and then we're going to use WeiDU to trayify it for us. So in this case, it's going to be, instead, the hero greeting. We're going to say the hero of trade meet, and either him or herself. Got my tokens. Where's our him or her? Yeah, because they want himself or herself. Yeah. So the hero of trade meet, him or herself. Greetings to you. Thank you and greetings. And then same thing. We've got the I have no interest. Now, because he's so nice, I'm going to change this slightly. Instead of I have no time for this, we're going to say just a generic, we're in no need of your goods today. Just because the merchant's being so nice, so the, I have no time for this. It's just a little bit not appropriate. So we're in no need of your goods today, and then either let me see your goods, and that's either get to see them or not, depending on whether or not the genies are still there. So this is a nice thing where we're basically reusing these states. Now, in each one of these, we can have unique replies and have them to, a specific farewell or a specific, right now I'm routing all 3 of these to essentially the merchant replies the same way in all 3 cases. And this is about as simple as I can get. But there's no reason why I can't have these have slightly different replies based on where we enter the dialogue. But for my part, I'm just not going to, just to keep it simple. And you'll see this a lot of dialogues where I'm sure you guys have done this. We have a quest giver and you can ask about a certain thing, and then it kind of takes you back to like a central, here's where you can ask all your questions state. So you'll see there are a lot of places where being able to reuse and compact your dialogue like this is really useful. So, and again, this is supposed to be like a simple merchant, right? So we're not having any replies like, who are you? Or, he's not, other merchants will happily tell you about how much the genies suck and how you need to resolve that problem. He's just basically saying, hey, the Dow suck, and ending the dialogue. So we've made this about as simple as we can get. And then we're going to end this, and then let me delete this because that's just kind of dead weight at this point. So we have now a dialogue. Now we've been trayifying everything so far. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a copy of this. Let me go back to my G3 zip. Grab this. And always do this with a copy just in case you screw it up. And we're going to come back to our game folder, and we're going to use WeiDU at the command line. So it's now here in the folder. Yep, there it is. So we want to trayify this. The nice thing is WeiDU has a command line ability where you can trayify it. And it can be a dialog file. It can be a TP2. It can be a TPA, TPH. It can be any file. You basically tell WeiDU, I want you to trayify this file, and then it will spit out the file that you give it, and then a matching tray file to go with it. In this case, and it will start from 0. Now the problem is that we're already using the range from 0 for WeiDU.tray. We would like it to start at 1049. So what we're going to do is we're going to go WeiDU, Treyify G3C merch.d, and Treya, I think it's Treyify number 1049. So that tells WeiDU that I want to Treyify this, and I want you to start at reference at 1049, and then it will do subsequent ones from there. So I think that's it. Let's see. I have a parse error in my dialog file, so it can't. At line 4 at then. I suspect I think this is, I think I'm not supposed to have a then there. It's been a while since I've done longhand dialog. No, I do need a if that a then reply. I think maybe the second then is what I'm not supposed to have. Yeah. Okay, that's irritating. Those are all right. Yeah, because this I'm doubling down on my thens. All right, let's try that again. So that's also a nice syntax check. At line 4, it's still. Oh, because I'm editing. Okay, I'm editing the one that is in the. I'm editing this one and not the one that we're working on. Okay, one more time. Okay, now let's try it again. Line 28. What am I doing in line 28 that is wrong? 28. Oh, I missed one. Yep. All right. Let's try this one more time. All right. So I think we're. Oh yeah, I don't need the end. That's silly. With the, I'm so used to like with a pinned. You can end it or not. I don't need to end it for a begin, so that's my fault. Finally. Okay, so now if we look, let's refresh this. You notice we now have a merch and a tray. So let's see what merch looks like. It has updated it. All these are now tray references for us, and you notice they start at 1049. And you'll notice these ones that are repeated. It's smart enough to know that, hey, I've already used that line and I have a tray reference for it already. Now, if you look in the tray file, it's taking all those strings that we've written and it started at 1049. So we're going to copy and paste these into game. And then even this, we can add to our existing D file. Because remember, D files are just a list of instructions. So there's no reason why we can't have this do all of this together, right? This is all of the dialogue that we wrote for Sespinar to do his item upgrade. Now we're just adding G3C merch to it. So we don't need this separate dialogue file to do this. And because we're already compiling this, it means we don't even need to update the TP2 because it's already doing this. So let's quickly make sure that everything is saved. Make sure that is saved. Make sure this is saved. That shouldn't be changed. So now let's try installing it. Everything installed. So let's go to our merchant. We should now have G3C merch. It's got a dialog file, and sure enough, here's our tree. We've got 3 entry points. Greetings to you if you've never talked to them. Welcome back, adventurer, or the hero of trade meet him herself. Thank you and greetings. And these two depend on whether or not you're the hero of trade meet. This is always your first initial greeting. I have no time for this. He says farewell. The dialogue exits. And then either let me see your goods. If the genies are not gone, he basically says I cannot. I continue to deny caravans to town. I have nothing to sell. The dialogue exits. Otherwise, let me see your goods. He says, yes, please look at my wares. It starts the store and the dialogue exits. And then both of these basically route to those exact same 3. The only difference is there's a slightly different reply here. And then And so you notice we've got identical replies, but the triggers are mutually exclusive. So the player will always only see one of these. So this is a trick of where you basically have the same reply dependent on where on other factors. In this case, whether or not they've resolved the genie quest. So the second reply is always going to be "Let me see your goods," but it'll take you different places depending on this variable check inside. So now we can go back to trade meet. Let's continue.
Yes?
Let's head back to trade
Will
meet.
be done.
And we spawned him up down here. Fish. Oh no, by the giant fish.
Certainly.
There he is.
What is it? Without doubt.
I have no time for this. He says farewell.
Quickly and precisely.
Welcome back. Let me see your goods. All right, so let's say that we have defeated the genies. That's right, genies. Gone.
Without hesitation.
Let me see your goods. Yes, please look at my wares. Now it crashed because we don't have the store created. So I thought it was just going to exit grateful. I didn't realize we'd actually get a crash out of that. All right. So, but sure enough, that would be where he would start the store if we had the store. So let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we will create the store and add the items that we have created so far. I don't think that'll take too long, but we'll create the store and then we'll close out the stream by making a few items at the end. I think we have one more dart from Mars and then I think 2 more items beyond that. So let's take a quick break and then we'll come back. We'll tackle the store and some more items. So sit tight, everybody. If anybody has any questions, of course, just ask. Otherwise, we will pick it up there. But if you guys have any questions about the spawning, the merchant creation, or the dialogue, by all means, just ask. So otherwise, we'll take a quick little break and we will be back in a couple of minutes. All right, so welcome back. So one thing I forgot to do is let's go ahead and we no longer need the G3C merge file because we included all that into this D file. So we're going to delete this and then we're going to make a commit for the merchant dialogue. And like I said, there are any number of very talented writers out there. If you want to write your own dialogue, I will be more than happy to, and we can replace it. Right now, we just want something functional so that we can actually buy stuff from this guy. All right, so commit and push. Okay, so now let's do the store file. So store files, despite the name, are actually do a number of things. So store files are used not just by merchants selling stuff, but they're also used by inns, they're used by bartenders, they're used by temples, and they are also used for bags of holding. So your bag of holding is basically a store that doesn't charge you any money. So if we take a quick look at, we'll look at Arcana Archives. So you can see you can set a basic store type, and then you assign it the name, and then here is where you kind of determine what it does. So, you know, user can buy or sell. This is obviously going to be for merchant. Same for identify and steal. Donate is going to be for temples, and same for cures. User can purchase drinks. This is going to be for, you know, like a tavern. I need to take a look at what the disabled donation screen does, and then tavern quality as well. I don't know what these do necessarily offhand. User can sell stolen goods. And then for the EEs and the EXs, ignore reputation basically means that the party's reputation, normally there's either a premium or a markdown based on their reputation. This basically means ignore that. This is only for TOBX. This is not available on the EEs, but basically anytime you sell a wand or a charged item to a merchant, they will fully charge it. And then when they sell it back to you, it'll be fully charged. So this, you can take that away with TOBX on the originals. And then user can sell critical items. Any item that is flagged as a critical item that has the critical item flag cannot be sold. And so usually you reserve this for like keys that you need to advance the game or other items that basically you'll be screwed without. The main thing is you can't sell them, but the other thing is that if they're in ground piles, they're the one thing in a ground pile that will not disappear, right? If you just leave a bunch of stuff on the ground and leave and come back, it's going to disappear unless it's flagged as a critical item. So the EEs added this mainly because in Icewind Dale, there's the one guy in Kuldahar who will buy critical items, and it's presented as kind of like, you know, I just like to buy antiques, but because he's the only place where you can sell them, in a way, it's like he can hold on to items. So even if you do realize later you need one of those items, you can just buy it back from him. So, but for the most part, stores should not be buying critical items, and outside of that one store in Icewind Dale, I can't think of anywhere that does. So then you've got some basic sell and buy markup. This basically, you take the list price, and these are percentages. So I sell it for basically 160% of its listed price. I buy things at 30% of their listed price. Depreciation is after I have, in this case, 5 of these items, I start buying them for less. And so you can also set this to 0 if you don't want any depreciation, or you can set it higher. I think 5 is pretty standard. Stealing difficulty. How hard is it to steal from the merchant? Storage capacity is only relevant for bags. Items purchased, we'll get to these. Lore. If a merchant can identify stuff, this is the lore score that they use to do it. 100 is the max lore of any item. So if you set lore to 100, which you should, that means they can identify all items in the game. The cost ID stuff. If the person is... If it's a bartender, every time you buy a drink, you have a chance to get a rumor. This is where you specify what dialogue they should use to pull those rumors from. Let's see if we can find a bar just to give an idea. Yeah, so Bernard. So if you buy drinks from Bernard, eventually you'll get, if you look in the drinks, each one has a rumor rate, which determines, I think it's a percentage chance. I might have to double check. But every time I buy an Omni nail, I think there's a 20% chance to get a line from the rumor, 10% chance for this. And so where does it get those rumors from? This is where you specify a rumor. And then if you were to just look at this, there's basically, there's a, each one of these is set up with like a random number and then usually some other conditions. And then you'll get one of these. And if it turns out, like, if it basically rolls the dice and it hits one of these where the conditions aren't true, you basically don't get anything, even though you should. But this is where your rumors come from, is from a dialog file, and it just presents the one line. And you can make it conditional, and then you also set it as random. So that's your rumor. If it's an inn, this is where you set what rooms are available and the prices for them. And then you'll notice, and then we've got sections down here, right? If you're selling drinks, what drinks are you selling, for how much, and the rumor rate. If you're selling items, you specify the item, how many charges it has, and actually we can look into this closer. Whether it has any of these special properties. Pretty much any store selling is going to sell identified. The only way is if you want to do like a gambling type store, or somebody like in Baldur's Gate, there's I think his name is Lucky ILO, who sells all the cursed items and they all come unidentified. But for the most part, if it's in a store, you want to flag it as identified. The number that they sell, or if it's infinite, if it's somebody who's selling, if it's like a Fletcher and you want to just give them infinite arrows, you just set it to yes here. And if that's the case, the number in stock will be ignored. So that's the items for sale. And then there's also store purchases. So not every merchant buys every item, and you limit that by basically saying this guy is only going to buy items, and you specify it by type. So most merchants, this is probably a pretty standard list of what a merchant will buy. Some don't buy any. And then some only, if you want to have a potion vendor where they just buy potions because that's all they're interested in, you can limit this to just potions. This store purchases. This is how bags of holding limit what they hold. So for example, if we were to go to the potion case only buys potions. So you can only store potions in it. The ammo belt only buys arrows, bullets, darts, and bolts. So that's how you limit what a store will purchase, and then also what a bag of holding will hold. And then what was the other thing? Oh, and then let's take a look at like one of the temples. I think the temples are all Tim something. Yeah. So temples that sell cures, those are also here. And you basically say what they sell and then a price for it. Nice and simple. Now this temple, the user can donate, but what you get for your donations is set in a 2DA file. So if you need to raise dead, I think this price is instead set by the level of the person you're raising is set by this 2DA file. Similarly, what was the other thing? I think it's donation. No, it's not that. Maybe it's rep. There's a 2DA file that basically determines, right, if you're at 1 rep and you donate X amount of gold, then you'll get a point of reputation. And that is also set by I don't think that's it. Actually, I need to look it up in the ISDP, but how much money you need to donate to gain a point of reputation is also set by a 2DA file. That's why it's not listed in the store. All right. So the store, in terms of a merchant, right? The idea is the idea is pretty simple. So in fact, we're going to go back to, we've been basing this merchant on Trade Meat Merchant 02. And so we're going to also base our store on him, because there's no reason why our guy should be selling or buying things for more or less than anybody else. So let's go ahead and make a copy of this. I'm going to go G3C merch dot store dot stow. Yep, that's all correct. Now, yeah, user could buy, user could sell, user could identify, user could steal. Let me, let's go ahead and go to the ISDP and see what the heck that flag does, because I don't happen to know offhand. So we're going to go to IE file formats. We're going to go to the store, and we're going to look at flags at offset 10 and see what those do. So at offset 10, it says tavern quality and does not expand further. All right, well, in that case, we're just going to leave that flag there offhand. We're going to leave the sell markup. We're going to leave the buy markup. We're going to leave all of this. The other thing is I am going to increase the stealing difficulty, just because I don't want people to be able to steal these easy. I want to be able to steal, but not very casually, because there are going to be some high-end items in here. Storage capacity is not relevant. Lore and cost to identify is fine. There's no rumors. There's no drinks for sale. There's no rooms available, so none of this matters. I'm actually going to remove these. He's not selling any drinks, so this section is ignored, but just to make it a cleaner file, I'm going to go ahead and just remove those, because why do they need to be there? And then I'm perfectly content with the normal generic things that merchants will buy. Now, we are going to clear out their existing inventory, because we're going to add just the items from this mod. So as a starting point, let's just save this as is. So we've got a merchant with basically no inventory who's going to buy, and who will buy your normal array of things that you have to sell, but currently doesn't have anything to sell, has, a fairly standard buy and sell markup. So now we're going to, so let's go back to our items. So we've got, so first let's go ahead and copy it over. Now you notice the store does have a name. In this case, it's just named generic merchant, which I'm content with. That gets displayed when you go to the store screen. I think it's like on the upper left. It'll tell you the name of the store. I'm fine with just generic merchant, so I don't feel the need to change that. But we do need to take this store, and we're going to let's do it in the MISC section. We're going to copy over the store. That's going to be the G3C merch dot store. All right, but first we need to get the store ready. So let's look at the items we're adding. So we have Akabar's Battle Blade, but we've already placed that on Zalanora, so that doesn't be available at the store. A Caster's Guide to Self-Defense. So we're going to add this item. So we're going to add item for sale. And we're going to add the G3C. We're going to add the Caster's Guide to Self-Defense. The Caster's Guide to Self-Defense, as I recall, does two things once per day. So we need to give it a charge. We want it to be identified. And we want there to be one in stock. So there's one item. This, if you don't set these to 1, then it's basically going to sell the item without charges. So you always want to make sure that these charges match the charges that are on the item. If it's not a charge item, like when we get to Sue's Lunar Blades, this is also quantity. So in that case, like if we were selling a stack of arrows, right, you would do like 40 here. And then however many stacks of those 40 you want is here. So that's how these differ, right? If I was selling arrows, in fact, I'm pretty sure I can find another merchant that is just selling arrows. In fact, probably that Ford mentioned Trade Meat Merchant. So yeah, if you look at, oh, here we go, darts. So he's selling 20 stacks of darts, and he's selling an infinite quantity. Let's see if we have something that's actually limited, so you can get a better idea. So he's selling 2 stacks of 40 arrows plus 2. So that's the difference between the number in stock and the quantity. So for items that stack, you notice how this is noted as quantity / charges. So he's basically selling 2 stacks of 40 arrows. All right, so let's go back to ours, G3C merge. So yeah, you do need to pay attention, otherwise you'll be selling a bunch of uncharged items. All right, so the next item is the countability and summoning matrices, which I'm pretty sure just has 1 item. Actually, you know what? Let's just work off our list top to bottom, and we'll do it that way. So the Realm Shaper's brush is the +4 halberd. It does not have any special abilities, so we don't need to worry about quantity and charges. We want it, of course, to come identified. There's 1 in stock. All right, let's add the next item. Okay, we've done... Let's do the Slippery Court. And I think this doesn't... Yeah, these are all equipped abilities, so again, this doesn't need any charges. Comes identified. 1 in stock. All right. Let's add an item for sale. After the Slippery Court comes countability and summoning matrices. This has 2 abilities. Both are once per day, so we again need charges. Yes, you can only have three abilities charged. That's why you never see an item with more than 3, because you can't track them after a certain point. And we're going to sell 1. All right. Add an item for sale. Countability and summoning matrices. The Emerald Iowan Stone, which doesn't need any charges at all. So we'll just make it identified. 1 in stock. And item for sale. The Emerald item. After the Iowan Stone, we've got the Executioner Putty. This is a charged item once per day, so it needs 1 charge. Identified. 1 in stock. All right. And an item for sale. Let's see what's next. Grays, which I think... Nope, no special abilities. All right. Make it identified. 1 in stock. All right. And item for sale. Next comes the Robe of the Archmage Estea, which I think does have... Nope, it's all equipped. All right. Identified. 1 in stock. All right. And item for sale. Dart of the Lethargic Soul, which no charged abilities. So identified. 1 for sale. All right. And item for sale. And right now I'm not paying too much attention to order. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now the Lucky Sweater, we don't want to sell the upgraded version. We want to sell the unupgraded version. This does not have any charged abilities, so we just want to be identified. 1 in stock. And item for sale. The Lunar Shards. Now the Lunar Shards, we have a decision to make. Sue originally pitched this as a 7 stack. So we can either do this where we're going to sell 1 stack of 7, or we can sell these individually and just give them a quantity of 7. So that in this case, the user would be able to choose whether they want to buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. I think given kind of the theme of the item, I'm going to go with the 7 stack, and then they can only buy 1. But you can do that either way. I think what Sue's trying to do with this item, I think doing one stack of 7 makes more sense. If he wants to pop up and tell me otherwise, that's fine. But otherwise, I think that's how he wants it. All right, the lunar shards. What's next? The Never Alone. Mirror image 3 times per day. So this needs 3 charges. Identified. 1 in stock. Add an item. What do we have next? That was Never Alone. The peril sensitive goggles. I don't think these have charges. No. Identified. 1 in stock. Item for sale. Want the power of real change. This I think has charges. Yep. Polymorph self once per day. There we go. Next up is... Oh, this is still showing up as plate mail. Okay, I need to fix that. This should be showing up as spiked armor. Alright, just equipped, so no charges needed. Identified, 1 quantity. Tinkerer spectacles. Does knock once per day, so charge. I know this is very, very exciting watching me do this. Alright. And item for sale. Those are the Tinkerers. The belt of just equipped abilities. Alright. Identified. Vampiric Dart of Eternal Hunger. It does have a charged ability. Now, in this case, it's got a ranged and a magical. So it's got 1 charge per day, but it's on the 2nd ability. So that's just something to be a little careful of. So this is the ranged ability. This is the magical ability. It needs the charge. So the abilities, it does count the melee and the ranged. So that's just something to be aware of when you do these. And then finally, I think finally, there's the vampiric one, the vine shield, and I'm pretty sure this does not have charges. No charges. Okay. Same thing. 1 in stock. Make it identified. All right, and I'm gonna delete this item and because if remember, this is the conditional item. If we don't have the spell states for this, this does not get installed. So we can't blindly add this. So I'm going to remove this, and then we're going to add it back via code. So let's go ahead and just save the store as it is right now, just so that we have the store built. Now let's go back to the override. Let's grab it really quick. Let's bring it back here so that it will be copied over. Now, because oftentimes you're adding items to existing stores, there are commands within WeiDU that you can change a store's inventory on the fly. And so what we're going to do is, depending on whether or not that Realm Shaper's brush gets installed, we're going to conditionally add it to the store. But we're going to do something else really quick. Now, first, let me think about it. So we have all these items for sale, and they're just kind of not necessarily in an organized order. Now, if you look at most stores, you know, like all the long swords are together and all the scrolls are together. And even within scrolls, like the level 1 scrolls are generally together, level 2 scrolls are together, that sort of thing. So how they're listed here is the exact order that they'll be shown to the player. So let's try to get this in a little bit more of a sensible order. For example, we have, let's start with, like, we have darts, and then we also have the lunar shard. So we can add, let's take, and basically I'm just going to cut and then paste them, because then they'll appear at the bottom of the list, and this will be where we start. So the vampiric dart, let's cut, let's paste that. Let's grab our lunar shards, let's cut, and let's paste that. So now we have our 3 darts together. We also have these books. So let's put the books together. So we got the book. Where's the other one? The Power of Real Change. Let's cut that, paste that, and then same with, where is the Countability? There it is. So now we've got our 3 books together. We've got our darks grouped, we've got our books grouped. What else have we got? We've got plate mail, belt, or headgear, belt, shield, more headgear. Never Alone is it's more headgear. Okay. Graze is Emerald Ironstone is yet another headgear. That's a miscellaneous item. Graze is a dagger. So let's do all of our headgear together. So let's start the Iowan Stone, Never Alone, Peril Sensitive Goggles, Tinkerer Spectacles. All right, now let's do equipable items. So let's start with the body armor, including the lucky sweater. I made a cloak. That's right. Let's do the rage rope. All right, so actually all right, so we've got body armor, cloak. We've got boots. We've got a belt. Then we've got a shield. And then we'll wrap it up with a dagger and a miscellaneous item. All right, so that's not an unreasonable order, right? We've got darts grouped together, we've got books grouped together, we've got headgear grouped together, and then we have a lot of one-offs, but we've kind of organized them, right? You've got basically equipable, you've got 4 headgear items, and then you've got a whole bunch of, armor, cloak, boots, and a belt, and then a shield, dagger, and then a miscellaneous item, because the Executioner Putty goes into your quick slot. So now we've got these somewhat organized. Let's go ahead and save these. We'll keep this version as our actual working order. Actually, no. Let's copy that. Drop this into the store. Now we want to, if the Realm Shaper's brush has been installed, we want to conditionally add it to the store. So first, let's come down to our miscellaneous, and we're going to have to do this as a separate copy. And it just occurred to me. So we're going to move it from there. Okay, so we're going to copy this. Now, we need to do that same check if the Realm Shaper's brush has been installed, which is, and it occurred to me when I was doing this the other day, I don't need to check these 3. This is a sufficient check if it's been installed. So I'm actually going to change that elsewhere too. Yeah, I just need to check that last, because this only gets set if the other 3 have been set. So I don't need to check all 4 variables. I just need to check the one. All right, so we're copying the store over. Now, if this state has been set, then we know this item has been installed. Now, WeiDU has an existing, let's go back to our documentation. It's add stow add store item X. So you can see we've got charge 1, 2, and 3. We've got the stack. We've got unlimited. You'll recognize that these were the fields that we've been using. And then interestingly, we've got position. So let's just grab these. Let's just grab this whole thing. Return, I don't particularly care where, I don't need information back from this, so we're going to ignore the return, but let's just copy the rest of these over. just so I don't have to keep toggling back and forth. So this is function. So we're going to launch patch function, and it's named add store item X. So WeiDU does have just an add store item, but it looks like this is usually when you see EX, it's usually something either written by like David or Argent that has a few more functions. So we're going to use the function instead. So int var. So the Realm Shaper's brush doesn't need any charges. So these all default to 0, so we don't need to specify any of these. The stack already defaults to 1, which is what we want. So we also don't need to specify stack. Unlimited goes to 0, so it is not by default unlimited. So we also need to specify this. Overwrite. Do we want it to overwrite? It's a new item, so we don't need to worry about overwriting anything else. It doesn't need to have an expiration. Now we do finally need the item name. So we're going to do a string var item name, and this is the name of the item is G3C brush. Where are we? There we go. Item name equal G3C brush, and then the position. So position equals, and then we'll put quotes because this is going to be, we want it to be after, let's put it after grays, because then we'll have our weapons together. So we're going to place it after G3C grays in. So yeah, after. You can list more than one res ref. We don't need to because this is a known store. And then we want to set flags to identified. Flags equal, let's give ourselves a space. Identified. And then finally, sale trigger. So the trigger string, Planescape Torment has a very weird store format in that you can have actual triggers in the store to determine if an item is available. None of this applies to what we're doing here in Baldur's Gate 2. So we'll just delete all that. So that should be it. Let's see if that works. So if that works, so let's let me go back to the override file. Let's delete that now that it's gone. Let's try installing, and we'll see whether or not we get, because we're in a situation where the Realm Shaper's brush is being installed, we should install that store and we should see the brush being added to it. So let's see if we've done it right. It's encouraging that we see patching G3 brush into the store. So let us come down to the store file. Oh, not SQL. Let's try that again. Let's find our store. And we've got grays. And there's our Realm Shaper's brush. No charges. It's identified. There's one in stock. So there it is. So we should be able to go now talk to our merchant and see if he's got... Oh, let's bring this over to the right window. Let's continue.
Yes?
Let's go back to... Well, first we'll pretend that the genies are gone. And then let's move to area 2500. Come down to our merchant, who is, again, by the big fish.
Certainly.
And we should be able to go shopping this time.
Quickly and precisely.
Let me see your goods. And will you look at that? We've got all of our items here. We don't have any money, so we can't buy anything, but they're all here. The purple emerald ion stone, nice. We use yawns for both of these. So there we go. We've got our store, we've got our merchant. You know, they spawn, they sell stuff. We're good to go. So let's go ahead, now that we've got the store in there, let us again, let's make our commit now that this is in. And then we've still got some time. We'll do a few more items today. And we will, all right, get commit. Added actual store. Yep. Looks good. Commit and push. All right. So we covered how to make your merchant. We reused the basic scripting he had from other merchants in the area because that's the most sensible thing to do. We wrote a very, very simple dialogue for him, and we created a store and the store will depend on, if, and the store is conditional, right? There's an item that may or may not be included in the store. So that's our very, very simple. The merchant is in the game, fully works, has dialogue, has a store that works. The store will buy things and sell things. So we're good to go. So if you guys have any questions about any of that, by all means, just ask. If not, I'm going to go back. We've still got a little bit of time. I'm going to see if we can, I think we've got one more dart from Mars. And then I think beyond that, we have like maybe 2 items after that. So let's go back to making items. So like I said, we've got one more from Mars. We've done the Lethargic Soul. We've done the Eternal Hunger. We have not done the Dart of the Severing Mist. All right. Now we can do one of 2 things apparently. All right. The acid-infused barrier not only protects against similar attacks, but also those who harm who strike the wielder. Or it'll have an ability where we can do it as a limited time ability. All right, special abilities: 5% of a Vorpal, no save. An equipped ability: select one of these 3 things. Permanent effect of Caustic Shell. Right, acid reduces and damage attackers. Or we can have them just cast it twice per day. Or even simpler, we can have it just cast protection from acid twice a day. No alignment restriction, usable by all. Returns to... Oh, get back here. Yeah. All right, so one of these 3 things. So what is... All right. Codes it as his Caustic Shell. Does he actually define what this spell specifically does? Other than a general... I mean, obviously it protects from acid attacks, but what specifically? And harms those who dare strike the wielder, also what specifically? So I'm inclined to do the Caustic Shell, because it seems like basically we can just give a, an acid resistance, and then also give a retaliation effect, which we've already done for several items. And since he's not specified specifically what, we will simply make up what we feel is appropriate. All right, seems simple enough. I'm just going to copy this whole thing into the TP2 just to make my life easier. The items. All right, so let's start with one of our existing darts. Actually, let me refresh the tree really quick. All right. We'll start with the vampire dart. And because this is acid themed, I'm just going to name this G3C acid. Okay. Now, it does not need the magical, because that's basically the vampiric dart had the vampiric touch. Be able to cast. We're going to remove that. Modify attacks per round as a standard dart function. That was the Constitution drain, which obviously doesn't apply to this. This is a +5 dart. So we want to have +5 to hit, want it to be +5 damage bonus. Weapon speed is already maxed. So, all right, and it's not going to do any of this because those were all features from the other dart. All right, so let's take a look at our basics. It does 1d3 +5. Did it? Oh, plus 1d3 acid damage. I should have noticed that. +5 bonus speed factor, and then the Vorpal ability. And then we're going to go with option 1. Usable out class to use darts, no alignment restrictions. Okay, and it returns the wielder. So I've already got that. All right, so let's first add the acid damage. Let's add effect. This is going to be a simple op12 damage on the preset target. We want to do acid damage, normal acid damage, instant permanent. We want this to always happen. And we want 1 dice thrown, and it's going to be a 3-sided dice. So 1d3 acid damage, and done. All right, now it's also going to... All right, let's find something that does a Vorpal hit. The Silver Sword does. Right, 25% must save versus death at -2 or die. Display string Vorpal hit. So yeah, these three, this is our Vorpal hit. These 3 effects. So let's grab these. We're just going to copy these. We're going to bring them to the dart. Yeah, Zen sent me some new icons. I've not implemented them yet. All right, so we're going to attach them here. Except this is a 25% of chance of Vorpal hit. In fact, it's wrong. It's actually a 26, but we're going to make this a 5% chance. First of all, let me just say how much I love the idea of a dart doing a Vorpal hit. That has to be a serious, well-placed dart. Except that I think his has no save. No save, yeah. So I also need to remove the save. All right, no save. 0. And then same for the other effects. No save. 0. And no save. All right, so there's our Vorpal hit. There's our 1d3 acid damage. There should be... Is there an item that just protects from acid? Are there scrolls that protect from acid? I thought one of the cloaks did. Oh, let me save changes first. Okay. Because there's protection from acid easy, but I think there's also there's supposed to be a icon that goes with it. That I'm hoping I can just grab somewhere else. Cold, fire, electrical. Saves. Electrical resistance. Oh, you know what? The Helm of Glory does. One of the... Or the Helm of Defense. Oh, cold, fire, and electrical. Not the actual one we want. Cold, fire, electrical. Ah, my laziness is not paying off. Acid resistance. All right. And we use the protection from acid icon. All right. So let's copy this. Copy. All right. Let's paste. We don't need any of these. All right. So I'm going to set acid resistance at, let's say, 20%. Because that seems reasonable. Instant while equipped. Display portion protection from acid. All right, so we've done our acid resistance. And so next we need to do the retaliation effect, because otherwise I think that's everything. Yeah, we just need to add the retaliation. So we've had other items that do retaliation. Let's save this before we move on. Battleblade doesn't. One of these does. Nope, looking for. Nope. Oh, this does, but it's conditional. That's right. The Vine Shield does retaliation. There we go. All right, so if I'm hit by anybody, we want to change. We're going to cast a different spell, though. It is string. We're going to change it to G3C acid. Yep, if we're hit by anybody, cast this spell on them. All right, save. All right, okay. But instead, instead of starting with that, we're going to start with Keldorn's spell, his retaliation spell, because it just does damage, so we can just G3C acid dot spell, and we can just say, all right, instead of magic, we're going to have you do acid. And let's tone it down to 3 points of damage instead. Yep. All right, I think that is it in terms of what we need in terms of the item. So now let's just do the strings. The spell file. Now the spell doesn't need any strings, so it can just go here. Acid. And this is, I probably should have marked this for the other ones. This is the Severing Mist retaliation spell. All right, and now we just need to put in the item itself. So one thing, the other thing I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before, but so this is the Dart of the Severing Mist, and it's a +5. Now sometimes I know the EEs like to include like the Dart of the Severing Mist +5. I personally don't like doing this because Dart of the Severing Mist +5, at least in my mind, implies that somewhere out there there's a Dart of the Severing Mist +6 or +3 or +2 or +1 or something. So this is just a unique item, so we just name it the Dart of the Severing Mist. Like this is something the EEs did that I can't stand. Like, you know, they put like Condar +1. It's like there's only one Condar. You don't need to specify. Like for something that, like Carcimer, that can be upgraded from +5 to +6, yeah, you need to specify. But if it's just a one-off item, I that's one thing that the EEs did that I really don't stand. And of course, there's a component in Tweaks Anthology to roll it back because I can. So, all right. So let's now we need to do our strings for this. All right. And it's going to be at 1058. It's going to be the name. Dart to the Severing Mist. And then at 1059 equals item descriptions. And then, because we're going to use option ones. All right. And then we're not using that one. So, all right. So let's grab this block. All right. It doesn't have any charge abilities. let's do this. Plus 5. 5 plus 1d3 acid. Alright. I think that's how other items specify elemental. Let's take a quick look at Varscona and see how it does it. 1d8 plus 2. And then yeah, it specifies the damage type. Yep. Okay. So now equipped abilities, it returns to the wielders. It has acid prevention, which I found on one of the helms. Let's see how it notes that. There we go. Acid resistance is only going to be 20% though. Acid resistance 20%. Oh, and then the Vorpal. Let's see. That was the silver sword. 15. And it's a 5% chance per hit the target. The target. We'll just say. How does he say it? That of a not Vorpal effect, but let's say Vorpal hit. All right, and then so we've already documented, and then we also need the retaliation effect. So let's look at the Vine Shield since I've already done this once. The Vine Shield. Actually, no, let's look at Keldorn's sword because it's more comparable since it does damage back. Hallowed Redeemer. There we go. And it's 3 points of acid damage to any who damage the wielder. All right. I think that's everything. 5%. Yeah. Da-da-da. I think that should be it for this. All right, it's 1058 and 1059. 1059. Correct the item ID. All right, let's save it. Let's make sure this installs. Okay, double check the item in the game. G3C acid. Oh, I need to get rid of, it's still saying the equipped abilities from what we copied it from, so I need to remove that. Yep, no equipping. Okay. Now it's correct. Okay, it's good to go. Now we need to add it here. So first let's correct the vampiric dart in prices. All right. And we're adding the dart to the severing mist. So this is very powerful. It's +5. He even notes that this should be TOB only. Even though we're just selling in a trade beat, we can deal with that bridge in a little bit. So this is the Dart of Severing Mist. So let's say, compared to the Vampiric, this steals, restores forgotten cell slots, but it does have the drawback of the Constitution. This is even more powerful, has acid resistance, has a Vorpal hit, and has a retaliation and some elemental damage. Let's go ahead and put this up at maybe Let's put this up to like 9,800. I think that's reasonable because this is a very powerful dart that you can be very much. I mean, the vampiric dart can already be in-game material, but this is absolutely in-game material that is +5. So let's set it to 9,800. I think that's reasonable. And then the other thing is because we now have the store, we also need to add it to the store. So let's go down to the store. We're going to add it here. Let's copy this and then paste. We're going to go G3C acid. All right, it does not have a charge stability, and we want to sell 1. Okay, so that should be it. Oh, and I need to grab that from the override, the updated store. Go back to G3C, add it to the store, replace it. All right, so let's add the item. We're just get add. Let's look at, and then we also added the spell. Yep. Just get add. Okay. And let's make our commit for the start. And there it is. I missed. Yep. All right. Make the commit. All right, so that's all of our close. Ask Luke. Every time I turn around, Luke has written another 17 NWN feats for the mod. So I thought it was close, and then over the last, kind of prior to doing this live stream over the past 2 months, I kind of lost all motivation. I feel really bad because Lava has basically handed me everything I need to get the calling into shape, and I've just not been able to deliver. So I don't know how close we are to Tweaks V17. I feel like I'm eternally 2 weeks away from getting it done, and just those 2 weeks are endless. And then yes, Luke also keeps giving me new components for it, which is a good thing, but it does delay its release. So who knows? Maybe we'll do Tweak 17 on a live stream in the future. All right, so that's all of Mars's darts. We already did the lucky sweater. Let's take a quick look at the bastard sword and see what's involved here. He's got, all right, Brutalitops and additional information on the second post here. All right, so bastard sword, armor class 2 bonus, saving throws 1 bonus, physical damage resistance 5%, and then to hit 3 or +2 depending on what you want. Speed factor. And he wants it to glow. Oh, and he wants it to be the Bridge District storehouse when you take that fight. So this is not going to be a store item. This is going to be placed elsewhere. And so what's in our follow-up? So he's replying to Brutalitops. Defenders a specific enchantment and nodal whips that property then have nailing just. All right, and he wants to name it this. So we have an interesting. Yes, Zen, like if you want to update your art, by all means, just send it. Send whatever you want to update to me, and I will make an art pass on a future stream. So what J Mary is pointing out to Brutalitops here is that defender actually means something in terms of magic items. So I wrote up a small little mod and I gave it to Angel. That he's going to incorporate in Maiden Heavens, because Twinkle, which is one of Drit's scimitars, is a defender weapon. And so in the P&P lore, a defender weapon, Twinkle's a +5, so it's a +5 defender. So what does that mean? It means you can spread your +5 out into attack bonuses or into armor class. And so your weapon can be anything from a +5 to damage and to hit and no armor class bonus, or +5 armor class and no hit and no damage bonuses, or it could be, +2 to armor class and then +3 to hit and damage. So the idea is that you can take that +5 and distribute it among armor class or attack. And so that's what J. Mary's pointing out to him, is that Defender is a specific kind of enchantment, so, and to not just name it Defender. So we can either take this as a Defender that's locked into like that's a +4 that we're going to lock into +2 armor class, +2 to damage. Or we can make this a true Defender weapon that will let you scale anywhere from 4 armor class to 4 to hit. And I'm going to do the latter just because I think that's it. It lets us do a little more interesting things with the code. So the armor class is going to scale. The to hit is going to scale. So we're going to kind of ignore those for the moment. The saving throws I'm going to drop because we're going to make this a Defender. But let's keep the physical damage resistance because I find that interesting. I guess we can, let's keep the saving throws too. So it's going to have physical damage resistance, it's going to saving throw bonus, and then the armor class and the to hit and damage bonuses are going to scale, and they're going to scale inversely. So as armor class goes up, these damages will go down. So to do this, because you can't dynamically attach or remove effects from an item, in order to do this, to make this work and scale between these bonuses, is we're going to need a separate item for each one of these. So we're going to need, one sword that is no armor class and then +4 to hit and damage. We're going to need one item that's +1 to armor class and then +3 to hit and damage. We're going to need one that's +2 to armor class, etc. So you're going to need like 0, 1, 2, and 3, 4 armor class versions, and then the to hit and damages will be inverted from those. So we're going to need 5 items to do this. So what we're going to do is, but Skelly, that's going to take a little bit longer. So let's start off tomorrow's stream with that. So what we're going to do here for this bastard sword is we're going to make one that's going to be a template, and then we're going to use code in the TP2 to generate all 5 versions of it at install time. So let's first make a generic bastard sword. We're going to ignore the armor class and we're going to ignore the to hit bonuses to begin with, because those are going to be assigned dynamically, but we'll make everything else here on the sword itself. So let's start with just a generic bastard sword, or as close as we can get to a +4 generic bastard sword. I know there are +3s. I'm not sure if there's a +4 bastard sword. So let's see. We've got, out here in the TOB items, we're starting getting all the +3s and the +4s. Is this a +4? Is this a bastard sword? No, it's a long sword. Phobane, of course, has got a 3 and a 5. All right, we can use Purifier as our. We can use Purifier as our starting point. So let's add a copy of this. So we're going to call this G3C. And then he's got some fancy name. No, that's no longer a Defender, a Runeblade. So we're going to call it G3C Rune. Now remember, at this point, we're just making the template. This is going to be the stand-in for everything else. So the first thing we need to do is, it doesn't have magic resistance, and it doesn't have any on-hit effects. All right. So, but what it does have is +1 saving throws. So let's grab good old Ring of Protections +1. We'll just grab all the saves from here. Copy this. All right, there's our +1 to saving throws. What else do we need? The 5% damage resistance. Okay. The armor class is going to be a dynamic. Saving throws we've got. Physical damage resistance is going to be +5. Okay. So I think the Defender of East Haven is the easiest one we can grab that from. Defender of East Haven. All right, so slashing, crushing, and piercing. We'll copy these. And it's going to need more because there's more types of resistances. So slashing, clear, piercing. I think there's also a missile. And I think that covers all of the physical. So let's copy this. Let's paste this. And update this to missile. But it's only 5%, not 20%. Instant while equipped. Yep. So let's change all of these to... Why did that change? That's weird. One of these just randomly... I should be slashing. Missile, slashing. Okay, let's change these both to 5% physical resistance. So 5% resistance to all of those damage types. Those are the 4 physical. I don't think there are any more. Oh, and then let's cut these. Let's put these at the end. And then, yeah, the saves are all together. Let's also put the colors together, just to be anal retentive. All right, we've got our +1 saves. We've got our 5% physical damage resistance. And then what else was? I think that was it. The armor class and these bonuses are going to scale appropriately. All right, so I think this is a good template that we can use. It's going to hit with enchantment of 4. The other thing we need to add here is it's going to need an ability that will allow you to switch between the items. So we're going to add an item ability. This is going to be magical. It's going to be an item ability. And it's going to cast a spell, and then that spell is going to be what does the actual work. So let's cast a spell, cast instantly, cast it on self. It's going to be a permanent change. It's going to be 100%, and it's going to cast, I'm calling this G3C rune. Now the reason why I'm doing this is one spell is we're going to make this like spell immunity, where you cast the spell and then it's going to give you like a little secondary menu. So like when you cast spell immunity, it pops up the little thing on the bar and you've got like the 8 options for the spell schools. This is going to be, it's going to cast a spell. It's going to bring up a menu and it's going to let you pick which one of the 5 variants of the sword you want to use. So the other thing we need to make for this item ability is we're going to give it a ton of charges. It's going to recharge when resting. Now, the reason why we're giving it a... so the +5... So they kind of sort of made it the defender weapon. This DK is asking, he thought the +5 in Trinklements, it strikes as a +5 weapon. It does, but defender weapons in PnP, like I said, they give you +5, and you can distribute that defensively or offensively. So if you can imagine, if you have a fighter mage and you're just going to sit back and cast spells, you can change your sword to just be a pure +5 armor class bonus. Alternatively, if you're going to be on the front lines, you probably want all of that in attack and damage. So that it's defender weapons are kind of cool that way. The only drawback is there's not really an easy way to do it in the game, and because it's a spell that lets you change between it, like on the tabletop, I think you can shift round to round what you want it to be. But in here, because we're having to do it as a spell ability, it'll cost you a round to change your sword, which is a little obnoxious, but it's kind of the best we can do. So realistically, you're probably only going to be changing it between fights or when you have some downtime. You're not going to be doing it in the middle of the fight, which is a shame. It takes away a little bit of tactical fun you could have with it, but it is what it is. So this is so getting back. So this is going to be the ability that lets you change between your swords. Now, I'm giving it. So what these abilities are going to do is basically, when you change it to a certain sword, it's going to create that sword in inventory, and then as a precaution, it's going to delete any other versions of the sword that are present. So that's why I don't really care if it has 100 charges, because once it casts this, it should just the spell that ends up being cast is going to delete itself. Now, the reason why I'm giving it 100 charges is in case you run into a Nishru, a creature that sucks charges out of you. This gives you a very good cushion, because realistically, the Nishru shouldn't be able to take away this ability. This is just the way we have to do it in the engine. So I don't want a Nishru to basically ruin you from switching between items. And then because it recharges after resting, just in case you actually do get hit by 100 times by a Nishru, it'll still come back after resting. So that's why I'm setting it up like this, even though realistically you're only going to use one charge and then your item's going to disappear. So that should be it for the item. Let's go and create the spell. I'm trying to think if we have... So we're going to use something like spell immunity. Let's see. Let's take a quick look at spell immunity, because there's a specific opcode that basically tells you to go look at a 2DA and what subspell. Yeah, select spell from 2DA, and then you specifically tell it which one to do. So we're going to need to create a 2DA, and then each one of those will individually create the sword. So just like we're going to create a template for the sword, we're going to create a template for these spells. First, we need like the one master spell. What do we call this? We called this... I need to go back to my item. I think I just called it the same as the item, the G3C rune. Cast spell. G3C rune. Yeah, okay. So let's grab... Let's grab spell immunity. We're actually going to use this as the basis. G3C rune.spell. Except no casting sound. We don't want this to be a wizard ability, because otherwise the Cald wizards will show up, and they really shouldn't for this. We're going to change. We're going to remove the spell name too, because we don't want this to show up in the combat feedback log. No casting animation. No school. No secondary. Spell level should be 1. Whenever you're using innates, always set the spell level to 1. The original has a nasty bug. It shouldn't ever come into play on this one, but if you use a have spell trigger with an innate and the spell level is not 1, the game will crash. So that's why with innates, traditionally, by habit, always change it to 1, even though that doesn't really matter in the E's anymore. And there's no circumstance in which you should be using this in the have spell. It's just my habit that anytime I make something an innate spell, I always set it to level 1, and that is why. Spell description doesn't matter, because that's not going to be exposed anywhere. Now for the melee, or for the actual spell ability, we want this to appear in item abilities. Target is going to be caster, keep spell, do animation. Yep, range. Now we're going to select spell, except instead of using this, we're going to create our own 2DA that is called G3C rune. Instant permanent. Yep, okay. I don't want the lighting effects. I don't want the sound. So let's save this. All right, now let's grab that 2DA. It's a +4 weapon, so it actually is going to go from 0 attack 4 armor class to 4 attack 0 armor class. So Twinkle is the +1 to +5, because Twinkle's a +5 weapon. So let's grab that. We're going to copy this. The 510. We're going to copy this to G3C rune. 2DA. And I think these are just reference. The names here don't actually matter. But this matters. Actually, let me double check the ISDP. I don't think that those matter, but just in case, let's go to 2DA files. Let's look on the spell wizard. It should be referenced here. I think the third one might be spell types. Spell wizard XXX. All right, so what does this do? First column just contains identifiers, so those are meaningless. Second one is the file name, yep. The third column is the spell casting action to use. Okay. So spell no decrease is what it's currently. Okay, because spell immunity using the first spell doesn't actually force a casting animation. It's using the actual necromancy or whatever. So we probably want to use item, because this isn't an actual true spell. Actually, you know, maybe force spell might be better, because we don't want this to be interruptible or anything else. So let's set these to 4s. I'm going to go back to my 2DA. And we're all going to need, what, 5 of these? 1, 3, 4, 5. We can delete these. It's going to be type 4s. And we're going to go... And we're going to go... we're going to name these by the damage bonus, by attack bonuses. So then we're going to go attack 0. It's going to be G3C rune 0. 0 is how we're going to do this. Oh, it's got tabs in it. I hate tabs. We're going to line these up, and then we're just going to copy. Because the attack can range from 0 to 4. So let's 2, 3, and 4. And then update these to match 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, save, overwrite, okay. And these are also going to be the names of the swords. I'm just going to, we're going to name it based on what the attack bonus is, and then figure out the armor class bonus. We're going to basically calculate the armor class bonus based against this. So now we need to let's just make one of these spells, and then we'll derive the rest of them via TP2 from that one. So let's save this. Now that this is where we want it to be, let's go back to spell, G3C rune, and let's create a copy of this. Copy out to, we'll make it 0. So this is going to be the version that creates the G3C rune 0 sword. And then, like I said, this will be the template for the others. So what we want to do first is delete every version of the sword that exists and then create the new one. So first we want to, I think it's remove item from inventory, erase dead, remove it. I don't think it's destroy. I think it's remove item. There we go. Remove item on self. We want this to be a permanent removal. Always happen. And the item we want to remove is... And like I said, we're going to do this for all of the possible variants. All right. I'm going to copy and paste. Except this time it'll be for rune 1. Paste. For rune 2. Because the thing is, we don't know necessarily what item they're using to begin with. So if we just delete all of them, we'll be on the safe side. And then finally, we'll delete rune 4. And then being as this is the 0 spell, we want to add... Now we want to create, I think it's 112. No, 122. We want to create inventory item. On self. I want to create just one. We want it to be permanent creation, 100%. And we want to create G3C rune 0. So that should be it for the subspell. So let's save this. And now we're going to do some fun WeiDU stuff to create all the spells and items that we need from this as a template, and then from the item that we created as a template. So first, let's grab these and let's grab them from the override folder. So we need the spell, we need the 2DA, we need 2 spells. Yep, there we go. So let's put this over here and back into our, we've got 2 spells, so we'll start here. The item needs to go into the item folder. And we don't have a 2DA folder yet, so. All right, so I have a 2DA folder. Okay. So first, just the generic spell just needs to be copied over. This is the master spell that presents the table to you. So this just, it doesn't need any special information. It can just be copied. Now we're going to do something special. We're going to run a loop. 0 index is less than 5 plus index. Yeah. Now, because we're not running in a patch, we need to specify that this is an outer loop because we're running it as an action. This is just one of the kind of obnoxious WeiDU things. We're going to use index as our counter. We're going to start at 5. Or I'm sorry, we're going to start at 0. We're going to run it until it's 4. Every loop we increase index by 1. And what we're going to do every loop is we're going to copy our template item, which I named G3C rune. So we're going to copy G3 sip-item / this to the override, but we're going to name it G3C rune index.item. And so index is this values, right? So we're gonna run this loop. We're gonna create a 0, run the loop again, create a 1, do another loop, create a 2, create another loop, run a 3, up until 4. Now on each version, we're gonna go ahead and give it its name and description. Do beholders do something similar? Do you mean in terms of beholders? All of their special stuff that beholders do is almost all via script. So I'm not sure what you mean by beholders doing something similar between, like, I guess between scaling their attack and their defense. I'm not sure what you mean there, DK. So let's go ahead and do the name and the description now, since we're going to be assigning these each time. I'll come back to, so he said he changed the name to let's do Elysian Runeblade as the name. And we can tidy these up later. For now, we just need to have names so that we can do this in the loop. And 1061 equals, let me grab the description. Okay. All right, let's grab a nice bastard sword description. What did we copy this from? We copied from Purifier, didn't we? Yeah. All right, so we're just going to copy all this. we want this to show up in the description too. Because the to hit. Oh, this is going to be an even funner thing than I thought. Because the to hit and the damage bonuses are going to, the 5 different swords are going to have different to hit and different damage bonuses. And then we're also going to have not only combat abilities, but equipped abilities. It's going to have physical damage resistance of 5%. Obviously that doesn't apply. Oh, I copied this the wrong place, didn't I? All right, let's try this again and put it in the right place. Except this time it's going to be, all right, equipped abilities is going to be, so these are going to be a constant. Physical damage resistance is going to be 5%. And then saving throws, I'm pretty sure I have, yep, there we go, saving throws +1. So these are going to be constants. And then possibly armor class is going to be, let's go back to the end. And it's when he said the weight is going to be 7. That's what he wanted. Okay. So we're going to do something a little nifty with this. So we are going to, where's our outer 4? So first we're going to set some variables. We're going to set the attack variable equal to actually no. We're going to use attack as our looping variable. So we have attack set. We're going to set defense equal to 4 minus the attack. Because if we're putting all 4 of our points into the attack, that means our defense is going to be 0. If we're using 0 points in the attack, that means our defense is going to be 4. Now the reason why we're going to define these ahead of time is because we're going to turn around and use these variables to create dynamic descriptions. So in the description, armor class is going to be equal to the defense variable. And the to hit and the damage are going to be equal to the attack variable. So this is going to range from anywhere from +0 to +4. And even though armor class, like when it's in full attack mode, armor class +0 doesn't mean anything, I'm still going to include it because I think for a defender weapon, it's important that it's there. But the thing is, if we just say this, if we just use the say command for this, it's literally going to put percentage defense into the description. So we're going to do something special, and we're going to, instead of say, we're going to say evaluated. Evaluated says, WeiDU, before you use the description, look if there's any variables in it, and if there are, replace them with the values. So that will force it, instead of saying plus percentage defense, it'll say, hey, what is the defense variable? Is it 0 or 1 or 2? And it will replace this with 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then same with attack. So that's why we're using say evaluated here. We're doing something a little special so that each one of these items has the correct attack and armor class variables in their description. So that takes care of the description. Now we need to add the actual armor class and attack bonuses if they're there. So for armor class, first we're going to say patch if, and this is why I love highlighters, because I can very easily see I have a typo because I didn't turn red. So if defense is not 0, If it's not 0, that means we have some kind of armor class bonus going on. So if it is 0, then we skip the step outright. So we're going to add item EQ effect. This is an existing WeiDU command. It's for adding an equipping effect to an item. And so let's go back to our docs really quick. Let's go back to our WeiDU docs. We're going to go to add item EQ effect. And then here's all of our commands for it. So, and I'm just going to grab all of these so that I don't have to keep referring back to the docs. So we can go back to our template item just to give an idea of what we're going to need here, right? So we're going to need, oh, because I copied it out. Dang it. Okay. So I'll just add it to another item so we can see. So add an effect. Now, the good thing is AC bonus is opcode 0. We want it to, so we don't need to specify an opcode because it's already opcode 0 by default. Oh, and I need to launch patch function. Int var. We're going to specify it anyway just so it's clear. It's going to be target equals 1, which is the self. By default, we want it to apply to all weapons, which is just 0. We don't need to set anything. Timing is going to be 2 because we want it to be while equipped. So we'll say timing equals to 2. That could be 0. Probability 1, it needs to be 100, but I believe probability 1 gets set defaults to 100, so we don't need to specify that. And then do we need to specify anything else? There's no dice, there's no max level, there's no save. We do need to specify, oh, let me get back here. We do need to specify the amount of the bonus, and that is parameter 1. So parameter 1 will be the actual bonus. So we need to go, because this is scaling, we want parameter 1 equal to whatever, to defense, right? The actual variable that we're, the defense bonus of the current sword. So that takes care of the defense. Now, if it's attack, if attack is non-zero, now what we need to do for attack is in the melee ability, I'll just use the lunar shards for a moment. We need to update these fields. We need to update the bonus to hit, and we need to update the damage bonus. Now, unfortunately, WeiDU does not come with an alter header function. Good news is I have written one. So we're gonna bounce over to let's see, it's gonna be in, I think it's mod resources. Modding resources. Code for me. Maybe it's in, oh, it's in functions. Functions me, alter header. And we're just going to grab this whole thing and drop it into our functions TPA, which we've, see, this is why you have a functions TPA. Is so that we can just drop stuff in. This is big and complicated. We're not going to go through this because it's big and complicated. Just know that that alter header works the same way that alter effect works, in that we can basically say, I want you to, if you find a header that matches, you know, whatever it is I'm going to specify, then I want you to change these factors. So, and actually we're not going to make this conditional on attack because that header is always there. So we're going to launch action function alter header. And we want, let's come back to our functions. We want to match the type because we want the melee header. We don't want to change anything on the magical header. We're going to match type because the melee is a melee header. And on that header, we want to change, change the to hit bonus. The to hit bonus needs to match whatever our attack score is. So the to hit equals attack. And then also the damage. So this is the damage bonus. So damage also needs to equal attack. So this will create the 5 swords with their attacks ranging from 0 to 4, because as soon as it hits 5, this loop ends. And then the defense, the armor class bonus, will range from 4 to... So the attack will go from 0 to 4 ascending, and then defense will go from 4 to 0 descending in tandem with this. So when the attack is like 3, then the armor class bonus will be 1. And so we're going to loop through for each one of these weapons, and we're going to do this each time. The other thing that we're going to take advantage of here is we're also going to copy over that template spell, the G3CIP.spell, the one spell that creates each one of these swords individually. We're also going to grab that. So we're also going to grab rune 0 as the template, and we're going to do the exact same thing, right? We're going to name these as we go along. G3C rune 0 to 4.spell. And the one thing we're going to change on these is that we're going to alter the effect. The one that it's match opcode equals, hold on, let me open up that spell really quick. I think it's 122, but I want to double check. So in rune 0, let's see. So on all these, we still want to remove all these items. That needs to be, we want that to happen for each one of these, but we want to create specifically on op 122, we want to create the one in question. So resource equals, and because this contains a variable, we're going to force an evaluate, and we want it to be named this. And then we're going to end the loop. So this is going to start at 0. So when attack is 0, defense will be 4. It'll create the item. The description will match these attack and defense values that we've set. And since on the first pass defense is 4, it will add an armor class bonus of 4 to the item. And then it will go into the melee header, and it will set the to hit and the damage to 0, because this is the first pass. It will create this spell, the 0 spell, that creates the 0 item. Oh, and I need to add an end here. It'll finish the loop. It'll bump up attack by 1, and then we'll go back through and we'll do the same thing with attack equals 1. When attack is 1, defense will be 3. So I'll add an armor class bonus of 3. It'll change the hit and attack to 1, and then it will create the G3C runed 1 spell, which will create the 1 sword. So we run through this until we hit 5. And then we'll... Oh, draining items. Yes, beholders, I think, do have a drain magic effect that I think also takes charges. So this should create our swords and the individual spells. We still need to copy over the master spell, which we've done, but we also need to copy over the 2DA file, which I'm going to do in the 2DA section. Up here. Yeah, here we go. 2DA. Just do that. So I think that should be everything we need. Let's try installing this and seeing if everything works like we're expecting it to. I'm expecting a syntax error. Let's find out. Sure enough. All right, line 242, near the text defense, we've got an error. All right, so let's come down here to line 242, near defense. Oh, because I said outer 4. This should be outer set, because we're setting a variable. We're not doing a loop. Bad copy paste. All right, there's our first syntax error. Let's go for our next syntax error. All right, now we're at line 242. You're still throwing an error there. What am I missing here with outer set? Why are you throwing an error there? All right. I know this isn't it, but why are we throwing an error there at outer set? Nope, just outer set variable equals value. This will make it throw a different error, but I'm trying to... Oh, line 246. Sorry. Okay, I was looking at the previous. Line 246, it doesn't like the at 1061. Okay, sorry, this line is correct. 246, say evaluated. Does it? Oh, evaluated may not take string references. Say evaluated may not. Okay, say evaluated wants a variable. It does not take at references. So we have to load this at into a variable first. And I'm thinking we do that somewhere in tweaks. Let me... I think in like the thieving descripts. Sprint. Okay, we can use sprint to load. Yeah, there we go. All right, let's come back to our TP2. And because we're still in an action, we want to outer sprint the description to be at 1061. And then here we're going to descript. All right, so a quick say evaluated doesn't let you pull tray references directly. So what we've done is, what this does is we have set the variable desc, short for description, to the contents of 1061, which is the description. And then later on, we're doing say evaluated at the, and we're using that needs a percentage, the description where it will evaluate. So we basically just had to do a little extra step to make sure this works, because say evaluated doesn't let you put in tray references directly. So we had to do a little bit of a workaround. So I think that should be it. Let's try this. We've got it installed. All right. Well, I'm making it. We could have just made 5 static swords and been done with it, but I want to do something a little more fun with the item. So if that is correct, we should have those 5 items. And we do. And they're all named Elysian Runeblade, but the description should be no, the armor class and is not evaluating those correctly. In fact, actually, oh, you know what? Did I not save this? I did not save this. All right, that's why it's not picking those up at all. Okay, well, let's try this again. So I was like, it shouldn't be static. All right, so let's check. G3C rune. So this one, the 0, no to hit, no damage bonuses for armor class. 3, 2, 1, 0, and sure enough, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So we've got our armor. So we've got the description correct. Now let's see if we've managed to do the armor class bonuses yet. So in the attack 0, this should have this is the armor class 4, but I'm not seeing an armor class bonus at all. I'm not seeing an armor class bonus in any of these. Okay, that is a problem. So only if defense is 0, we're adding an item equipping effect. Okay, let me come back to that in 1 second. Let's see if we've at least got our to hit bonuses. So on the 0, we've got bonus to hit 0 and damage bonus 0. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so those all work, but we're not getting our armor class bonus. Why is that? All right, we're adding item equip effect. Let's check the docs on this, see if there's anything that we're missing here. So patch match function, we're setting opcode to opcode, target. I don't think I need to do an insert point. It will always strike as a +4. So what an item can hit is determined by its enchantment level, which is here. And the enchantment on all these, because, you know, regardless of how you're, you know, using your bonus, it's always a +4 weapon. The EEs do give you the ability to conditionally strike. And we did that actually on the lunar shards. So lunar shards are a +0 weapon, except against lycanthropes. Against lycanthropes, they strike as a +6. So on the EEs, you can make it conditional. On the originals, there's just one enchantment for everything. So all of these strike as a +4. All right. So why are we not, out of curiosity, and it's not dropping it here or here by my chance. It is not. So let us, just out of curiosity, I hope it's not because it is being done with the opcode. Let's just double check this. No, okay, so it's not some weird thing with opcode being 0. Okay. Let's check the docs. It's a patch macro and function. So yeah, this should be just fine. I don't see anything as necessarily required. I mean, we can explicitly set an insert point, but this shouldn't matter. Point equal to 0. That will add it as the first effect. Although, again, that should not matter. Let's try making this just in case it's this. Let's make that. Let's just unconditionally add it and see if that will actually get it to turn up. All right, so there's something it doesn't like about that check. So that gives it a 4 armor class bonus, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, all of that works. Oh, because I've got the check wrong. I want it to be... Okay, so it was only adding it for armor class 0 because this shouldn't be... It should be that. So if defense is non-0, then we want it to add this effect. And I had it checking for only if it was 0, add that effect. That's where our bug was. Okay. Well, let's double check that that is what it should be. All right, so on 0, we're adding a 4 armor class bonus, 3, 2, 1, and then this last one shouldn't have any armor class bonus effect at all. It does not. Brilliant. All right, so like the +1, so this one should have +1 to hit, +1 to damage, and then +3 to armor class. Correct. The 2 should be 2 and 2. We've got a 2 armor class. We've got a +2 to hit and a +2 to damage. Boom. That's done. All right, so all of these have the ability to cast this spell. The G3C rune, which in turn does the select spell, which brings up the table. Let's see if this actually just straight up works in game. So let's just bring in one of these rune blades and see if this works. Now all of the icons will all look like spell immunity. So we do want to change that as well. Okay. Oh yeah. So we also need names for the spells. So we'll do something similar. We'll name those spells equal to Elysian Runeblade. And we'll do plus attack plus percentage defense. And we'll use these as the names. Actually, we can just use this as the item name to distinguish the swords. Let's do that, actually. So let's just name this string 1060 and replace this. And so we will also need to do outer sprint name, because these also now need to be evaluated. And now we need say evaluated and 0 cross 0 C, and same thing. So now the name and the description will be dynamic. And then we will use the same name on the spells. I think that'll work. Let's try that. Let's check the items first. Let me see. Oh, it's not defend. Or is it? What is the name of this variable? Defense, not defend. Okay, that's why that's screwing up. Okay. So the item name ends up being a little bit long, but all right, and then the spell name should match. G3C rune. The zeros. Okay. I may want to just have the spells be named just that, but let's see if this actually works in game. All right, so let's create the item. Rune 0. Give it some charges. Let's identify it. Oh, of course I don't have anybody who can use it. All right, let's grab a Keldorn. Let's bring you into the party.
Yes.
All right, Keldorn. Let's give you the item.
I stand high as you wish. So be I fled in torn.
So he should have. Yeah, this doesn't have an icon, but. Oh, I didn't bring up the menu. All right.
You have a plan.
Oh, you know what? I think I know what's going on. Okay. I think this needs to bring things up. Select spell from 2DA, G3 rune, 2DA. Maybe we do need to keep these as, well, no, 3 shouldn't matter there. Well, maybe. Let's try these as 3s. Because that's how the original spell works. And yeah, all those exist. Okay. Yeah, because all those are fine. Just why is it not turning up in the menu? Oh. Keldorn. Let's create our item. Let's identify it. Let's give it to Keldorn.
I stand high as you wish.
Let's quick save here so we can continue from here. Yeah, it's not bringing up the sub menu. Yeah, those are just
You have a plan.
It didn't use a charge at least, but it's not bringing up the, like when you get spell immunity and you get the menu down here. I'm probably going to have to play with this offline to see why it's doing that. And that should be 0, not that that's what's failing here. Because I feel like this is not executing correctly. I didn't change that. Oh, you know what? Oh, I think this is what I changed that might be breaking it. All right, let's see if... Nope, that is also not it either. All right, I'm going to have to play around with this and see... see how I can, what's going on with this spell menu, that it doesn't feel like it wants to work. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot this offline, and then that once I figure out what's wrong with it, we can start off the next stream there, because we are 3 hours in, which is substantially longer than I thought I would go today. So thank you guys for joining. Like I said, I'll play with this offline and see if I can figure out what's going on with this, because obviously it's not behaving how it should. I suspect it's something to do with this spell, not of trying to use the spell as an innate, but I'll play around with it. The Infinity Engine can be very, very finicky sometimes. At the worst case, we can basically have the spell give you innate abilities for every version of it. I think I might go back and see how I did Twinkle, because I gave that to Angel and I know that was working. So I'll see what I did for Twinkle and why that's not working. In fact, actually, I think I have Twinkle right here. I can just take a look directly. I think it was just CD Twinkle. Maybe is it? Okay, I thought it might be here somewhere. Maybe I obviously did it somewhere else. Huh. All right, well, I know I did a Twinkle somewhere. Oh, Twinkle Defender. Here we go. So how did I do this? So I copied the sword. I'm dynamically adding ability. It was 214 for self. It's a permanent. And it was called casting CD Twink. Adds it to the ability. All right, and then what table did I use for this? I should have started with this. Yeah, that's all similar to what I have. Let's see, do I have... No, and we can actually... I'll install this offline and see, because clearly this one works and ours doesn't. So we can take a quick look at the spells and see what it does. Okay, yeah, it does the same thing. It removes all those items, but where's our master spell? Oh, it doesn't use a master spell. It just does it directly. Oh, I wonder if we... Oh, let's try using it directly then. So forget the G3C rune spell. Let's go back to the item. Let's see. Rune. So it's just basically doing a 214 directly. So it's not casting a spell. It's using 214 directly. I thought I had to go through an external spell. Obviously, I do not. We sell not known spells from a 2DA. G3C rune 2DA. All right, let's save this. All right, and then being as this is our template. Oh, let me go back. Yeah, let me go back to. I should have altered that here. Sorry, altered the wrong thing because I wanted to alter the item that I'm using as the template. Because then this correction will farm out to everything. All right, so instead of a 146 here, we want a 214 on self from a 2DA instant permanent using that. All right. Okay, let's install that. That should farm that out to all of my, these should now be using 214s, 214. All right, now let's do a quick check here.
I stand ready.
Nope, it's not working here.
Aye.
All right, I'm going to take a quicker look. I'm going to take a closer look at Twinkle and see what it's doing specifically that works that I am not working on. Yeah, it's just using a 248 itself that's permanent, and then references the, and then let's see, and then magical. This needs to be. Oh, and let's open up the master item again. Okay, so it's magical. It needs to be ID to use. That makes sense. Let's see. Need to ID to use it. It needs to be in the item slots. I don't currently have an item icon. That's fine. The target. Oh, there's not a target. Oh, that's where we're failing, I think. Range needs to be 1. I don't think that matters. The number of effects is 1 because we added the effect. Index. The number of charges. Okay, I think it's that target issue. So let's save this. Let's try this one more time. Because without a target, it's basically doing that 214, but not to anything in particular, which is why it just disappears. All right, let's see, continue. Let's see, do we have it this time? There we go. 0, 4, 1, 2. Let's create the +3, +1. We got a weapon unusual because of course his weapon just disappeared. These have, I need to change these to have 0 lore. That's one other thing we do need to change. But that should be. This is the +3 and +1. So it works. It works. Alright, so it's always something simple and dumb like that. That's one thing you find out in the Infinity Engine when you're bug fixing. It's always something dumb. So obviously the artwork is all temporary. We need to, because those items are created in inventory, we're going to need to change their lore to 0 so that they don't show up unidentified. So that is it for this weapon. Like I said, there's obviously some fine work we need to do. Once we have an icon for that, we'll make it so that when you do this, you don't have an empty icon here. And then the other thing too is I think I'm going to change it so that these just say the +3 attack, +1 defense, and instead of like the full name, because that tooltip is gigantic, and I think especially on the original, that's not going to show up properly. So, all right, so I'm glad we solved that before we went. So, like I said, we're over 3 hours.